play on record. Can you guys hear the lawnmower? Is it too loud? Okay, he's far away, but anyway. Okay, so welcome to Birth is a Rite of Passage. I'm Susie Fishleader, and I'm joined today by my friends Amanda and Jenny. Amanda is a postpartum herbalist, and she owns Tree Mama Herbals, and you can contact her for any of your herbal needs. And then Jenny is the founder of VBAC Academy. She and I actually both met when we were both pursuing a VBAC, which if you're not sure what that means, it's vaginal birth after cesarean. And so she can talk a little bit more about that. But I love these ladies, and I wanted to gather us today to talk about the idea of birth as a rite of passage. Because I think it's really clear that our society really is lacking in ritual and ceremony and sort of recognizing the transformative power of birth. So the more that we can talk about it and get it out into the world, the better, right? The better equipped that we are. So how today is going to run, I'm going to give a little introduction about what birth as a rite of passage, like what I actually mean by that. Jenny's going to then kick it off with kind of some discussions about, that her area of expertise. Amanda's going to pick it up, and then we'll just have this conversation go for 20, 25 minutes or so. If there's any questions, let me know. And then afterwards, I will lead us through a birth healing meditation. So this is for anyone who had a birth and maybe it was great and maybe it wasn't. And you just want to kind of reconnect to that rite of passage energy, right? So everything we do today is going to be recorded, and you'll have access to viewing it online afterward. So what do I mean when I say birth is a rite of passage? Well, let me pull over my screen here. I'm not going to share because I'm terrible at that, right? But really what we're talking about is this archetypal idea, and it lives in the collective human consciousness, right? Humans have been around for hundreds of thousands of years. So this idea of a rite of passage goes back before we were even really consciously aware of what it is. Many indigenous communities still have rituals or traditions around this idea. When you have, someone who's on the verge of adulthood leave their tribe and go spend a couple of days in the forest alone, and then they come back, that's a rite of passage. What it really marks is a period of transition. You are transitioning from your old self into a new self. And there's a lot of emotions that can go along with that, right? It can feel like a death almost, a letting go, a shedding of the ego, while you're also assuming a new identity. And so when we talk about motherhood specifically, or birth as a rite of passage, we're talking about you are no longer the person that you were before you had the baby. You're no longer even the person that you were when you were pregnant. You are now a mother, and maybe you're a mother for the second or third or fourth or 12th time. Every time is different. Every birth turns you into a different person. We have a name for this period of transition called matrescence, which again, not commonly talked about, didn't even know that word existed a few years ago. But if you think about the period of adolescence, when a child becomes an adult, matrescence is the same thing. It is a period of time for a person who is about to have a baby becoming a mother, the process of becoming a mother. And so in indigenous ceremonies, there are like a party, it's a celebration. When someone comes back from the rite of passage, they are properly celebrated and welcomed back into the tribe. And we don't have that here. We have a 6-week postpartum checkup, and then it's like, back to work, go have sex, go fit into your jeans again. You should be the person that you once were, without a deep acknowledgement, right, of where we were. So I want to go ahead and toss it over to Jenny now and have her talk about this experience.
Thank you very much, Susie. I don't do panels very often, but now I understand why panelists take notes while the other ones are talking, because while I had this whole thing that I want to say right now, which I will, but then you started saying stuff and I wanted to say stuff too. So I will just point out that I really liked what you said about no celebration afterward. I never thought about that, that's a big piece in other rites of passage traditionally, and that there's probably a lot of invisible rites of passages that are happening unnoticed. So thank you first for having me. I was really excited to have this on Mother's Day and to talk about something that I think is so important. So I thought about this and I considered how to answer it. And the first way, when I was trying to get ready, right, to have this conversation, I thought, well, how was it for you as a rite of passage? Which interestingly brought me down to the first two births I had. I would not have considered it a rite of passage. And if you had asked me if it was important, I would have said no. And the reason why is very complex when I look back at it. It's because I was a cesarean baby. My brother was a cesarean baby. It was very normalized in my family. I often describe it as the culture was you get pregnant, you make the baby, the doctor takes the baby out, and then you become a mother. There was no tie-in for me that this whole process was becoming a mother. So my first two pregnancies, really, they ended in C-section, of course, right? Because that's what I always thought would happen, and that's how I believe things like that work. So after my second C-section, it is really what branched me off into this VBAC branch, which for me became a mission of, I had an assumption of what I could do with my body and what was allowed. And then like the top was blown off of that. And I realized there was all these options that weren't made available to me, which then made me kind of question everything like a conspiracy theorist. Like what else haven't they told me about my body? And it was a really interesting transformational time for me to go from two babies, two pregnancies, two births, where I wouldn't have considered it a big deal. And then really it was the postpartum of my second birth where I was like, huh, and then a mission for my last two births. So then I was considering, again, to Susie's point, how was it a rite of passage for me? And was it? So I got to, it wasn't at first until it was. And then it's almost like that you can't unknow something. You can happily exist not knowing that it's possible, but once you know it's possible, then I think two things happen. You can either actualize that rite of passage the way that you envisioned it, or you can be deeply hurt that the way that you envisioned your rite of passage to unfold did not go as planned. So in the VBAC world, I deal with a lot of those dynamics. I see both people that come through birth being empowered and those that come through birth the second time when they knew what they wanted, still feeling victimized by the situation or disappointed in the outcome. And so then I got to, does everybody need to do this? And if they do, what happens if they don't? And then how do they go on? And then I got to, it's okay if it's not. There's what this rite of passage is for birth is really becoming your individual self, which for most moms happens when you birth a baby and you see that physical, like I am now the person for this person, and it kind of shifts that for you. But not everybody will have babies, not everybody will birth babies, but hopefully everyone experiences some kind of rite of passage that gets them into their, I am my own person. I'm not a child. I am not a boyfriend or girlfriend. I am myself. So starting there, I considered when it is a known rite of passage, when someone is going through it, this is how I would describe it. You have it broken down into three. I have a cheat sheet over here: challenge, surrender, and shift of identity. So in my consideration and in my classes, I consider the challenge of birth is in four pieces, four-pronged. That part's on my phone. Let's see if I can remember it off the top of my head on the spot. Mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical. And the way I teach it in my class is, and just in general, when I try to talk to people that are birthing and pregnant, is that each of those areas are really important to maintain and focus on and kind of wipe off the junk that might be making you perceive those areas or have challenges in those areas, so that you can go into birth with a clear mind, emotionally, not tethered by fear, not unavailable to talk about your vulnerabilities, physically able to move and not be afraid of your body. Oh, this is getting harder. Mentally prepared for the gymnastics and Olympics that the birth system is. And then spiritually, whether you believe in God or evolution, that your body is made for this and that you can just let go, settle into that right brain and just go through it. So the challenge here, I think, and where people know and don't know, is when it gets to surrender. And the people that don't consider this a rite of passage, really see those challenges as something to survive rather than to use as like transformation and to make themselves level up. I really saw it as that, especially with my fourth birth. With my third birth, I can speak to, I got to all the places mentally. I knew all my rights for a VBACer, but I hadn't worked on the really the spiritual or emotional piece of it. So I left that birth feeling accomplished and a little bit traumatized. So I know both sides. I know what it feels like to do it kind of half-heartedly and what I call wholeheartedly, when you have all of those four pieces ready for the bigness of labor, and how there's really nothing that you can do to plan out what's going to happen. It takes a surrender of enjoyment and finding joy in however this is going to unfold. And then I think once you can hit that surrender, and if you can hit that surrender, then you will have that, hopefully that shift of identity afterward, where you can feel like I planned for it. I did it. I felt really good when it was happening. And now I feel like a completely different person as I've exited this process. And that's where I think everyone will feel like a different person, but whether or not they prepared for it as a rite of passage or not can make a difference on whether or not they feel like they just survived birth or whether they felt like they went through a rite of passage. I could probably go on after that and talk about celebration and stuff and what I think should happen afterward now that I've had that seed planted in my head. But that's how I thought it through.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Amanda, what are your thoughts?
Oh, well, I'm going to talk postpartum. So I work as a postpartum herbalist. So I work one-on-one with moms, either setting up for their postpartum or once you are postpartum, feeling vital and balanced and nourished. And that goes so much deeper than nutrition and body. So just a little background on myself. My first postpartum was really, I think I could use the word traumatizing. I had severe postpartum anxiety, postpartum OCD, and postpartum depression. And I refused to see anyone to get help for these because I was very afraid that they would take my child from me. Mm-hmm. And so I clawed my way out myself. I don't necessarily recommend that, but that is what I did. So that's a little bit of contextualization around what I had. My second birth, I finally braved having another kid after that postpartum, and it was beautiful. It was nourishing and it was healing. All the things that I could have hoped for someone in postpartum. So anyways, I wrote up a little bit of things so that I could try to keep my brain kind of streamlined here. So hopefully it's not too long because like I told you, Susie, it kind of turned into a little manifesto. But here's the thing. Postpartum can feel like one long, dark night of the soul. It can feel like the walls are closing in, like you have no idea who you are, and like you've lost every single thing that makes you you. While childbirth is a physical, painful challenge, and it's acknowledged as such in our society, postpartum is a huge physical and mental challenge, but we're expected to go through it behind closed doors. We're expected to do it with a smile on our face and care for an entire other being that literally depends on us for survival. We're expected not to struggle. We're expected to feel that this is natural and that we have all the instincts needed, that we'll be on the other side in 6 weeks and back to ourselves, back to pre-birth weight, back in our old genes, back to having sex, back to work, back to exercising, back to exactly who we were before. But you can't go back. Once you've been through a rite of passage, you're someone else. Someone different. You fought to be this new person. You struggled and cried and bled to be this new person with these new identities and new ideas. Rite of Passage is the shedding of the old skin. It's a releasing of the identity that you cling to, the person that you thought you knew so well. The Rite of Passage is allowing this new, raw, aching, beautiful person to emerge. It's not easy. It's painful. There will be tears shed. There will be nights that you don't know if you'll make it through. You think you might literally die from lack of sleep. There's the deepest, heart-wrenching love that you've ever experienced that makes you feel like a crazy person some days. This is postpartum. This is the Rite of Passage. And it's a rite of passage that isn't celebrated. It doesn't have a one day like a wedding. It goes on. It doesn't have an end date like our medical model would like you to believe at 6 weeks. There's no magic dust that tells you you're through. The rite of passage is when you leave one group or one life and go to another. So it's this harrowing adventure between these two lives and groups. That's the rite of passage. So there's no skipping it in birth and postpartum and motherhood. You can't opt out. Once you've birthed your baby, you are postpartum. Many rites of passage include rituals. And I bet you're thinking, what are the rituals in postpartum? Well, I'll tell you. You will bleed vaginally. Even if you have a belly birth, you will bleed vaginally. You will sweat everywhere, like pools of sweat, like waking up in a puddle shaped like you. On day 5, you will cry like there's a river inside of you dying to escape. On day 3 to 7, your milk will come in flooding, whether you plan to breastfeed or not. If you are breastfeeding, your nipples will chat and heal. You will stink like you never stunk before, and you'll swear your natural deodorants just don't work anymore. You will get less sleep than you've ever had before in your entire life. My husband's a Marine, less than you do during basic training. And you're going to function more than you ever have in your entire life. On day 5 to 7, you're going to wonder if you made a huge mistake and wonder if you could potentially put the baby back inside of you when you were a good mom and they were safe. And your partner is going to ask you if you're insane. You'll ache in muscles you've never felt before and be afraid to look at your vagina or surgical site. You'll never have more difficult or terrifying poop in your life. You'll look to find new ways to sit comfortably. You'll be ravenous, insatiated, so thirsty. You'll hold your baby and just wish someone would hold you. When your baby cries, you might cry too. These are the rituals of postpartum. These all change you. These make you into the person that you push to become. There should be women who have come before telling you this, walking you through it. There should be teachings on it. This should be something that is revered, if not celebrated. This should be where your community shows up and the crones of your community come and hold you and tell you it's normal and nourish you and help you. It should be. But in our society, postpartum is pushed away. We focus on the baby. We're supposed to heal and be back. We're supposed to be smiling, greeting visitors, welcoming people into our space. If you've been through postpartum on your side, you're weathered, you're worn, you're tired, but you're alive. And more than you ever deemed possible, you are the village. We are the ones to be there for those who are about to embark on this rite of passage. They don't know what's going to happen. And because you can only explain so much to those who haven't been there, when they embark and it's dark for them and they can't find the way, when they're stumbling and they're hurt and they're not sure they're going to make it through, they're vulnerable, they're crying, they're on the edge, that's when we show up. We show up with a casserole, hugs, laundry bags, and childcare. We need to show up with open arms, understanding, and help for the mother, and for the love, not another onesie. And so that is how I see postpartum as a rite of passage.
My goodness, that's so powerful. Thank you. You made me laugh. Yes. Yes. I love that all three of us touched on this lack of ritual and ceremony. And I think you started talking about like, what are some alternatives? Having the crone wisdom, having someone hold us and then, bring us through. And it really, if you think of other rites of passage, like getting married or graduating high school, or there's the party, there's the celebration, right? And the only thing that we get when we're pregnant, we do get a baby shower, but that's all about the baby. And it's all commercially, it's consumer driven. Mm-hmm. So if you guys could, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but if you guys could say something to someone who's either about to have a baby or maybe has just gone through this, and you want to create that ritual and hold that and create that ceremony and celebration, what would you say?
I think because I feel that postpartum is such a rite of passage, one thing that I try to tell people, because I never want a pregnant mom to feel afraid. And I never want a postpartum mom who is doing fine to feel like they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And so what I always say is, when you leave the hospital, you're going to meet someone entirely new. And that person is you. Yeah. And that is the most gentle and kind way that I think I can explain the way postpartum can be. Yeah. And like you were saying, Susie, with each kid, that postpartum, that rite of passage is there again. You're going to have this whole mutation every time, becoming someone different every time. Even coming brand new back to your kids, like, hey, I'm this new mom. I'm somebody different than I was even for you. And it's so hard to explain it. I think the biggest thing we can do is talk about our postpartums so that people know that there's variations and that these things can be normal and that they can talk about these things and they don't have to suffer behind closed doors. They don't have to plaster on a smile and welcome their father-in-law into their house and make them a meal, that they feel that they can have, that they are supposed to, not that they can, but that they're supposed to have these feelings. And they're supposed to feel like they're tearing apart and like they're completely raw and like they have no idea who they are. And like I said, like you're supposed to go, oh my God, can I put this baby back inside me? These are things that you're going to feel. Yeah. And I there's no way to not scare someone who hasn't been through it.
I love that. Oh, that was a hard one. I was thinking through it and then I just pivoted completely to listening to you, Amanda. So now I'm back to thinking about how to answer that. I think if I could, grab a moment with someone currently pregnant, I'm going to stop there and say this. In my whole consideration of rites of passage and whether I did or didn't have one and whether someone will or will not have one, I thought, thank goodness Susie's doing things like this, because this is the kind of thing that wakes up that knowledge, which is what happened to me after my second birth. But when you become aware that more is possible. Yeah. And so if you are aware that more is possible, which I assume everyone watching this is, if not, I would tell someone more is possible and that you can do more than just survive this. And I would give them encouragement, which I often wish I could just like take out of me like a physical object and hand to someone, because I feel so confident in our ability to birth babies. And I feel so confident that if we build a good birth team and do the work to chase joy in pregnancy and in childbirth, then you will be in a good spot to feel transformed in a positive way after this birth. So a little long and windy, but I would tell them chase joy, know that it's possible, and to just feel how awesome it is to experience this. And there's not a lot of people want to birth babies and can't. So I just really try to focus on how incredible it is and how it's almost an adventure that you get to watch unfold. And isn't it exciting?
Right. Yeah. Well, I love how you said that. Like you don't have to just survive this. Because how many times when we were pregnant were we given the horrible birth stories, and it's just this fear and it's this scary thing. And it's all kind of a blur after the baby's born. No one's really talking about it except to be like, it's really hard. And yes, and you can thrive. It's only through the challenges of our lives that we grow, right? And it's through those that's the dark night of the soul. It's through these like soul crushing, ego death, like challenges that we face ourselves, the self with a capital S, and we see the like light of the universe. I mean, my gosh, when you are birthing a baby, like, and I'll talk about this in the meditation, but your womb space is that spiritual, it's the portal between the spiritual realm and the physical realm. So you're birthing that baby and you are open to, like you said, Jenny, it's like whatever you believe in, you're open to it. And we get to have that. And sometimes I feel like that's why the patriarchy exists, because like, if we could actually tap into that.
Yes. Oh, if we knew exactly, I got goosebumps.
I know.
It's so possible.
Yeah.
And I do think that when you start talking about the birth story culture, I can only speak for America, but I assume it's widespread that, let me tell you everything terrible that happened about birth. I so consciously and purposely find every pregnant person I can to tell them how excited I am for them to experience this day. And, I don't say it's going to be awesome and beautiful, but I just say everyone's different. You're going to tell this story forever. You're going to remember this story forever. Like, how do you want to feel? And how can you set yourself up to feel that way? And then hopefully this can be that known rite of passage, no matter how the baby comes out, by the way, because you can have an of course, to go without saying, but because I'm a VBAC advocate, I feel the need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of feel the same way when I see people that are pregnant. I'm like, oh, you're about to be postpartum. I can't wait for you to go through this so we can talk about it. Give me your number. My husband laughs at me because I'll see people on the playground and I'm like, do you have a meal train? Do you want to talk? I work in postpartum. Here's my number.
I can help you. Yeah.
I just, because we all need someone, we need that crone, we need that person who has been there.
Yeah.
We need that person that can, like Susie, you were saying, like Obi-Wan, that can walk you and help you through this. And when it's not celebrated, and when, we kind of walk on eggshells talking about pregnancy and postpartum and things like that, especially, if you have friends who aren't able to become mothers, and you're walking on eggshells and you feel like you can't talk about these things, then where are you left to go, and where are you left to learn these things? Yeah. So I think it's so wonderful that there are people like all of us that talk about these things, and, maybe make people uncomfortable coming to them multiple times, telling them, oh, I can't wait.
That's funny. And then they'll grow up to be 9 and come in and be like, can I watch YouTube? It's all magical.
It's all transformation. It's all.
It is. This has been wonderful. So I want to transition into birth healing meditation, because all 3 of us, I think, had either challenging birth or challenging postpartum. I've been teaching prenatal yoga for 13 years, and I can think of, off the top of my head, only 1 student who has 2 students who speak only positively about their birth and their postpartum period. So that's hard, So I think we could all use a little healing. And even if, my baby just turned 7 2 days ago, and I'm deep in the realm of motherhood studies, but that connection to that birth as a rite of passage, it's all for the rest of my life. It's a reminder, like, I touched this, and I might not have been aware that I was touching it at the time, but I did this. And it's that knowledge is there within me, and I'm going to tap into it. So that's what we're going to get into today. So if you guys are ready, find a comfortable seat. So today we are going to bring our awareness to the womb as the source of this whole transformation. By acknowledging the womb as the beginning of our rite of passage into motherhood, we honor the warmth and the wisdom of the womb space. Now, this counts regardless of your gender identity. Gender is a construct. If you've birthed a baby and you have that womb space, we all really, regardless of gender, have a connection to that energetic womb space, even if you had a womb at one point and no longer have one. So when I talk about the womb space, you can think of the actual physical uterus itself, or you can just think of that place in your low belly, that place of knowing, that place of connection. Okay, but before we start, we want to remind our body that we are safe. So take a minute and just kind of situate yourself in the room. Like, where are the doors? Where are the windows? Where's the ground? See the walls around you, locate the exit. And then take a comfortable position, either sitting upright or lying down. Take a moment and allow your body to be relaxed and at ease in the space. And if there's anything you need to do at this time to make yourself more comfortable, do that thing. And so once you're settled, allow your eyes to close, or just keep a soft downward gaze. Bring your awareness to your breath, consciously breathing in and breathing out. Your breath has the natural ability to bring you to that present moment. We can breathe unconsciously our whole life, but when we are conscious and aware of our breath, we are in the moment. We are deeper in the here and now. So allow your inhale to expand into all areas of the body. And then allow your exhale to soften those areas, both opening and relaxing with each inhale and each exhale. Now bring your attention deep into your body, connecting internally with that womb space. And take a moment to acknowledge your womb, thanking it for growing your baby. Acknowledge that your womb is now empty. Perhaps it's been a few months or a few years since your baby left the womb. But your body still carries the cells of your baby and might for decades. And that all started in that womb space. Even after birth, your womb was still working for you, adjusting day by day to return back to its usual size and helping all of your other organs shift back into their places. Now, if you can, bring your hands to your lower belly and allow them to cradle the space that once held your baby. Notice any emotions or sensations that arise, and simply be aware of these emotions. Allow them to pass through you without trying to change them, without trying to force them in any way. And give yourself permission to feel multiple emotions. It's okay to feel grateful, happy, and relieved while also feeling sadness, anger, or pain, or even nothing at all. You can be happy that you have a beautiful, healthy baby, and you can still be hurt by your birth experience. Give yourself grace and give yourself some time to be fully in this moment. Your feelings are welcome here. Your feelings about your birth are valid and true. Now bring your awareness to the sensation of your hands resting on your belly. And take a deep breath in and feel your belly expand and press into the hands. And then exhale softly and allow your hands to press ever so slightly into your belly. Continue to breathe in and out this way without forcing it. Just creating that natural pulsation in and out. And feel this natural connection between your womb that once held your baby and your hands that now hold, cuddle, clean, prepare food for, and love on your child. Now choose a color that feels warm and wise to you. And imagine your womb slowly filling with this color. Let it permeate throughout your entire belly area. Our womb space is the portal for the spiritual world to enter the physical world. This may take the form of a baby or a creative idea for a new project, or even intuitive knowing about a situation. Allow the color inside your womb to expand even further, creating a warm glow around your entire body, saturating yourself with the beauty, the warmth, and the wisdom of this deeply sacred feminine space. Stay here for a few more moments. Begin to feel yourself heal from the inside out. Rest in comfort with the knowledge that you have the power to heal yourself. Now allow your attention to drift away from your wound space and expand to become aware of the rest of your physical body. Bring your awareness back to your breath. Feel that deliberate and intentional inhale and exhale. And as you breathe, allow the color saturating yourself to dissipate into the room, which will contain this warmth and wisdom for the rest of the day. Come back slowly into the present moment by feeling the surface beneath you. Allow your eyes to gently open and take a moment to notice the space around you once more. And you can come back to this meditation again and again, taking as much time as you need to sit with whatever emotions come up. Healing is like motherhood. They are both lifelong journeys. There's no linear path. It's like a spiral. And every time you come to the same healing spot or come to another motherhood challenge, you come to it with more knowledge, more wisdom, more sacred intention. Whenever you need to return to the sacred wisdom of your womb, know that it is always here for you. Thanks, ladies. That was so fun to lead you guys through.
That was awesome.
Yeah. My 6-year-old, I'm feeling it. I'm into it. He's like, Mom, there's package on the doorstep. I'm like, thank God I muted myself.
Honestly,
and then the dog came down. He's pacing and crying. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. Those
10 minutes were like, that's when someone's going to come in. I know it's when someone's going to come in. Yeah.
Mine was awesome. I was completely uninterrupted and I was there with you, except for when I was like, Susie should have a Calm app.
Yes. You totally should be on Insight Timer. 10 out of 10.
Oh my gosh, this was so much fun. I'm so glad you guys could join me. Happy Mother's Day to the two of
Happy
you.
Mother's Day, mamas.
Happy Mother's Day. It was so good to meet you, Amanda. And Susie,
You
it's so
too.
good to date with you.
I know. I've always feel honored whenever I was teaching prenatal yoga to be a part of that transition, be a part of that rite of passage for mamas. And it's really special to me that I met both of you two through that way. And here we are so many years later, still talking about it, still super into it.
Yes.
Never die. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and